Olatunde Osunsanmi, you're director and executive producer of Star Trek Discovery, which is ending its run this spring after 5 seasons. You've been with the show since season one. How difficult was it to say goodbye to it?
Oh, it's incredibly difficult, particularly when you have as much fun behind the scenes as we did, and you grow these relationships. And it had 5 seasons, but it was like 7 years of work. And some of us didn't have kids, some of us didn't have wives or husbands, and the family that you go on this adventure with multiplies. And my kids have become preteens during this process, and it becomes very emotional knowing that you don't get to go play in that universe anymore.
In season five, you directed the season premiere episode Red Directive, which is what you're entering for Emmy consideration. There are a few big action set pieces in that one. What is the process in general of building those kinds of visual effects heavy scenes? Like where does the process start?
Oh, well, the process is about 30 to 35 week process on Star Trek, because everything is world building. We can't go to Home Depot. You can't go to a location. Everywhere you go, or every scene that you try to exist in has to be built from scratch. So, if you take something like the Sandrunner sequence, 35 weeks out, we got the script, working with the writers on how to possibly plus up a particular action sequence and make it be an extension of what that particular character is going through. And in that case, with the Sandrunner sequence, it's basically like a snowmobile that is running on sand, and it's environmentally conscious, so it runs on sand, and it just plows through at 200 miles per hour. So we put it on a gimbal, and you put it up on the VR wall, and there's an incredible amount of testing that goes to syncing what the gimbal is doing with the VR wall. And then one day you get to shoot it. And so it's a quite detailed process. It's a total collaboration amongst all the teams. Lots of concept art, lots of testing of the technology, lots of inventing of new technology, because some of that stuff just hasn't been done yet. Until one day you arrive on set and you hope it works. Usually it does.
And when you look at something in a script, like, two starships using their shields against an avalanche, uh, do you ever think like, what are you doing to me? Like, I have to figure this out, how this works. And is there ever, challenges like that?
Yeah, when I read something like that in the script, I actually get really excited because, after 5 seasons, what are you going to do next? Like, how are we going to keep ourselves on our toes? How are we going to be excited to keep going? And it's challenges like that that keep things fresh. And you just go through and you break down first, at least for me, the emotion. What are we trying to feel here as an audience member? And then you get into the technical of, okay, exactly how are we going to do this? What does this look like? And I go through and with the script analysis for that particular scene, go through and shot list it, go through and storyboard it. And then I get together with my team, special effects, Darcy Callahan, and visual effects, Jason Zimmerman, and my DP, Phil Lanyon. And we go through, okay, this is the frame that I'm looking for. What's the best way to achieve this? How are we gonna maximize spectacular effect and spectacular, really hit the emotion of what's going on here in that scene. So when I see like that, I get excited. When I see stuff like that, I get excited, because it's something new and something fresh and something that keeps us on our toes.
And on a show that balances sometimes a lot of major action with intimate character moments, how do you balance as a director the tone of a show to make sure it's sort of grounded in that emotional reality?
Well, yeah, it's a tricky thing, and our primary, at least I feel my primary responsibility as a director is to capture what's happening on the screen in the most emotional possible way. I just believe in emotional based direction. And you got an action sequence like you've seen in that premiere episode, and And the camera is very frenetic. It's handheld. It's exploring. It's aggressive. It's feeling what the characters are feeling and going through. And then when you stop down and have a scene like we had with Burnham and Book, right after the Sandrunner sequence, where they're just connecting intimately, then the camera slows down and it's no longer handheld. It's on dollies, or it's on Steadicam, or it's on a crane, and it's moving very carefully and being very precious with the moment. And you're also talking with the actors to slow down and not be afraid of slowing down the pace, and be open to unpacking what's really happening in that scene. And you know, so this the script is a wonderful guide, you know, and that particular one for 501 is written by Michelle Paradise. And when you have scripts that are that good, it makes the directing, I think, a lot easier as far as figuring out where to be in particular moments.
And do you ever run into like budget constraints when you have to, where you have to improvise or pull back on certain scenes or effects, or like how resourceful do you have to be?
Yeah, I think it's funny. The more money you have, and CBS gives us and Paramount gives us unbelievable resources to do what we do. It's never enough, right? Our appetite creatively at artists always wants a little bit more. And yeah, what you find is, you know, the first iteration of what my vision is we can't afford it, and so okay, you got to compromise and bring it down. But then as the different teams come on, different departments, they realize, oh, we need this and we need that. Oh, that's more money. Okay, so let's compromise and bring it down a little bit further. Or let's find a different way to go about doing it. And I think we've become pretty adept over time as a group, kind of understanding, okay, this is the process, but this is what we have to keep on screen in order to keep it spectacular. And you just kind of feel it out. And sometimes you don't get everything you want. Most of the time, you don't get everything you want. But hopefully what's left by the end of that process is something everybody can still enjoy.
The episode you directed brings back David Cronenberg as Dr. Kovich, who sends the Discovery crew on its mysterious mission. As a director, what's it like working with uh, uh, the performance of a director like Cronenberg? Does he still wear his director hat a little bit, you know, even when he's acting, or you know, are you working strictly with an actor when you're working?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, working with Cronenberg was a fascinating experience, particularly the night before the morning I was going to work with him. I had no idea what I was going to be getting into. And because I have obviously an immense amount of respect for him. And I walked on set, and he's an actor. He is in actor mode. I am dealing with an actor. Not once did he come up and oh, you know what? Actually, he did. Yeah, there was a time when we were shooting on the Federation HQ bridge, a two-story set, and we had this piece of equipment on the camera that was called an M7, and it's this head that rotates around continuously if you want it to. And we had this shot with one of his co-stars where the camera pushed up and rotated around and then came back. And he came over to behind the monitors, which is where he's never been before. And he goes, "What's this piece of equipment here?" And I told him, and he said, why hasn't it been used on me? And I looked at, and then, but he was totally joking, you know, and we were just kind of cracking up, and then we just talked shop for a little bit. I think my only regret working with him was that I didn't get to pick his brain more, because there's a lot going on in there that I think just would have been invaluable to learn from.
And as an executive producer of the show, in addition to being a director, like how much do you collaborate with the other directors on the show? Like how closely do you work with them? What's that collaboration?
Well, I try to be their guardian angel. You know, I try to, you know, when you, particularly your first time coming in to do a Trek episode, you've got, you know, what, 50, 75 years of history. And then you've got the history of Star Trek Discovery, which is its own thing. And then we jumped into the future. Um, so there's a lot. And you know, we have a really wide and large box by which the directors can play in, whether it be an emotional box or just toys as far as equipment that they can use. And my job is really to encourage them to to find their own unique voice in that universe, to be the best that they can be, to solve problems that may come up, to essentially be there to allow them to create the best possible episode that they can. And it's wonderful being in that position for me, because it's very rare as a director, before I started doing this, that I got the opportunity to watch and study other directors this closely, and to pick certain things that I think they do really well, and our directors do a lot of things really, really well, and learn from those things, and add them as part of my repertoire. And so, yeah, so I always look at my job as an executive producer, as the producer director on the show, as being the guardian angel. And also, I like to learn a little bit of, what they're up to.
Well, congratulations on your work on the show, and on 5 great seasons. And thank you so much for talking with me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.